Hello guys, welcome to this video. So in this video we will look at how to build out a Google authentication login and logout system in Node.js and Express. And you can basically see I'm running this on localhost 3000. If I reload the application, I just need to restart the application right here, node more index.js. So we will be using passport library. So we will be storing all the details in a MySQL database. You can see connected to MySQL database. If I refresh right here, and you will actually see there is a model box out there which is saying to you that login with Google. So what it does basically, guys, you will see we have this users table. I created this. If I show you the structure of the table, what sort of information it will collect, the ID will be the primary key. ID, Google ID will be coming after the authentication is done. Display name, email address, photograph, created at. All this information, guys, once we grant the permission of Google authentication, all this information will be coming from Google authentication OAuth login, and we will be storing this inside the users table. And automatically sessions table is automatically being created once you install Express session. We will look at this library once we install this package. This package already create this table once you want to save all this information inside the session. So this session table is automatically being created. We don't need to create this table. So you can see that now if I click the login with Google button, let me just try out with an account with I haven't tried it because I already logged in with this account. So let me try it with a different account, localhost 3000. I just want to see the authorization flow. As I click the login with Google button, guys, what will happen? This screen will show to you that you need to choose your account. So you will simply choose your account, and after that you just need to, it will say that the project one wants additional access to your Google account. So you just need to continue, grant the permission, and once you grant the permission, guys, you will actually see the profile picture, and this is actually the email address that you will see, and a logout button as well. So after you do this, if I refresh my MySQL table, you will see this information, a cookie has been inserted, guys. You will see that in this table, and also in the users table you will basically see the display name is inserted, email is inserted, this is actually the photograph as well, the timestamp is also inserted, this is a Google underscore ID as well. So all this information is being inserted, and we are displaying this information in the browser in a user profile. So if I close this window, again open this and navigate to the same address, you will basically see the information will persist because we have saved all this information in the MySQL table, and we are fetching that information. We are already detecting that the user is already logged in, so we are displaying this information in the profile page. We are simply navigating it. And you also have the logout button as well. Now if you click the logout button, your information will be deleted, and now you can see that if I refresh that table, you will basically see now, if I go to the sessions table, that information, if you just navigate to it, again type localhost 3000, you will be redirected to the login page because we clicked the logout button. So now we are seeing the login with Google button. Once you again click this button, you will be redirected you. So this time you don't need to go to that screen, select your account. It has automatically detected that you are already logged in, so it has redirected to your profile page. So similarly, you can choose any account of your choice, guys. Let me choose this account. You can, once you deploy this, it will happen for every account. So this is a different account here. You will see that again the same process. You just need to select your account, and this is Google authentication login and logout system. This is the authentication flow that you see whenever you want to log in with Google. This is the actual authentication flow that you see. You can see profile picture, this is name, address, all that stuff. So this is very easy, guys. What we need to do here, this one is, you can see that this is actually profile picture. Some accounts have profile pictures, some accounts don't have. So this account, I have a profile picture, so the profile picture is also showing right here. So you can see this is the name, this is the email. So if I just refresh the table right here, the users table, you will now see 3 entries will be added in the users table. This is the first entry, second entry, third entry. So 3 accounts have been inserted in the MySQL database. So you can see it is a very automated process. So once you do this, so again if I log in with this account, you will see that again the profile picture, email address, name, and again if I refresh my table, you will see one such account is already inserted. You will see that. So now 4 accounts are inserted with 4 email addresses, 4 names, 4 profile pictures, all this stuff. So we will try to build this application, guys. Let me show you the dependencies that we are using right here. So the very first dependency we are using is passport. Passport is basically a simple OAuth authentication library. It is almost 2 million 4,000 30,000 weekly downloads, a very popular package. It has various pre-built strategies if you are building for different social networks, Facebook, Google, Twitter. So specifically we are targeting Google right here, so we'll be talking about Google authentication system for it. So it has its own password, Google OAuth2 strategy. So if you search for this package, the very first package which comes right here, so this is a specific Google module for password. We will also be using this also, 273,000 weekly downloads. So we will also be using this also. Apart from that, guys, we will be using MySQL 2 to actually connect to our database in MySQL. So about 2 million weekly downloads are there. We will use this library because we are using Apache web server, which basically have its PHP myadmin. MySQL comes right here. We have actually storing it. We have actually created this database, and inside this database we created this users and table. So we are using the MySQL database in this video to actually store the user information. And apart from that, guys, we also are using sessions to actually store this information, to persist information across users. So if you navigate to the same page once again, your information will be stored in the code. Basically in Node.js you can actually configure how much time you want to store the user information. So I basically have the session secret, and I'm storing this information for 1 year. So this simply means that if the user logs in successfully, that information will be stored inside the Google browser, user browser, for typically 1 year if the user has not deleted its cookies. So the user, once you log in, that cookie will be stored for 1 year. So you can just configure it in the max age property. So this application, guys, we will be building it step by step. If you need the full source code, I have also given the link in the description of the video where you can actually purchase the full source code files of this project. If you are interested, from my website procodestore.com, the link is given in the description. After you purchase it, you will be redirected to Google Drive where you will actually get the zip file. So if you are interested, you can directly purchase it. And now in the next section, guys, we will start building this project step by step. Now, guys, we will start building this project. So I'm basically here in my project directory. I will open the command line here, and I will simply make a new directory. I will simply call this as passport Google login. I will navigate into this directory and simply open this inside VS Code. So you will see that nothing is present. We are starting it from clean slate. So the very first thing we need to do right here, guys, we need to make a package.json file by invoking this command, which is npm init-y. This will actually create a package.json file. You will see that. So now we need to install some modules. First module will be Express, which will be the backend server. The second one will be the passport library, which is the base library for doing the Google authentication system. And then we have the passport Google OAuth2 0. This is actually a strategy in passport. Passport actually contains various strategies for implementing different authentication. One such strategy is passport Google authentication 2.0, which is specifically made for Google authentication system. And then we need to connect MySQL database in Node.js application. We are using MySQL 2 package for that. Then we are using Express session, which allows you to actually store your information in sessions, in cookies, in user browser, so that when they are actually closing their browser and again open the browser, then the user must then the user login is stayed in the browser. So we are actually storing information in session, so that's why we need express that session. And then we also need express dash mysql dash session. So this package is specifically made for MySQL database to actually store the session information inside MySQL database. So this package automatically create that session table that you saw in the demo video. So this is required. And then lastly guys, we need .env, which is used to actually store information which is very crucial to you. So .env file we will create it. So this package is required. So just enter and it will actually install all these modules inside your package.json. It will create a node modules folder. Once the modules are installed, you will see that. Now it has created this node modules folder. So this is actually the package.json file. You will see all the modules are installed: .env, express, MySQL session, express session, MySQL2, password Google, OAuth2. So we have successfully installed it. Now we just need to create the basic index.js file, which will be the starting point of the Node.js application. So right in the root directory, we do need to create .env file guys, which will actually hold us all the information that we need for this application. First one, we need the Google client ID. You can call this variable anything, but we are just calling it like this. Google client ID we need, Google client secret we need. All this information I will be showing you in the next section how to get this. And then we need Google callback URL as well, DB host and DB password, DB username as well we need, DB password, and lastly we need the secret key of the session. So session underscore secret. This you can call it anything. This you can provide any random value. I will just call it at my secret. This is required for just having your session. You need to just provide a secret key. So this needs to be unique. If you are developing it for production, you just need to generate a very long random string and equal to. So after you do this guys, just put all these values in double quotes just to make sure it's a string value. So if you're developing, as you can see, I installed this Apache exam control panel, which is actually a cross-platform software. So it comes with PHP. It comes with MySQL database, so you can install it, click on download exam and install it for your respective operating system, Windows, Linux, Mac. I've already installed and started this. Go to phpMyAdmin, and here you can see that you actually need to create a database by clicking this button. I've already have a database right here. So what I can do is that, let me show you how I did this. So I can delete all the tables from here, drop table users, and also drop this table as well. So I'm just writing a SQL statement right here, drop table sessions. So you will basically now see there is no tables in now this database. This database is empty. So now we need to create a table right here in this database, users DB. So let me just give it the name of the we also need database name as well. So database name, DB name, this will be users DB. This is database name. Password is by default is nothing in exam control panel localhost environment. The username is typically root if you haven't changed your username. So by default username is root, and this one will be localhost because you're developing it inside local environment. This is localhost, the default values. So if you haven't changed any values, these will be the values. You can just write these values, and then these three values that you see right here, we need to now go to Google Cloud Console and actually get these values. So just you need to go to Google Cloud Console. You just need to create a account right here. You should be having a project right here. Already have some projects, and right here simply click on this menu option, and here if you see, you will actually see a option of APIs and services, go to credentials, the third option, and right here you need to go to the third option where you see create credentials, and the second option OAuth client ID. You need to click on this option, and then you need to create a client ID. So this web application type is web application because we are developing it for the web. So simply select this option, and here inside this authorized JavaScript origins, we are developing it on localhost. So you just need to write http://localhost followed by your port number. So I will be developing it on port 5000, so I will simply add this, and then the callback URI. So typically callback URI for passport will be this one. If you see, this will be the callback URI /auth/google/callback. So this is specifically if you are using passport. If you go to their documentation, they also show you that this is required whenever you need to authorize redirect URI. So redirect URI simply means that whenever you grant permission, whenever you click the allow button, where should the Google redirect you to your inside your application. So in specific terms, passport have this directory structure /auth/google/callback. Right here I will just change this value to 5000. Click on create. So now it will create your client ID and client secret. So you just need to copy this information, client ID and the client secret. This will be different for you, so don't copy my information, and just copy the client secret as well. So just make sure that you put double quotes right here. So this is the client ID, client secret that we got, and then the same callback URL that you are using, right, where you copy paste it /auth/google. This is all that we need to see, guys. So just close this file. Now we will basically start our basic Express app. So just inside this, we need to just require the Express module right at the top. And we also need to import the passport module as well. And we also need to import the Google strategy, which is, we have installed this module as well, which is passport Google OAuth2. So dot strategy, we just need to import this right here. So here we are just importing all the modules, and MySQL we also need to import it. So MySQL 2, and then we need to also import the session module as well. So this will be Express dash session, just import that, and then the MySQL session as well, MySQL store, let me call it, and then we need to require it Express MySQL session. Lastly, we just need to also write, just typecast it to session, and lastly we just need to require the .env module that we installed, .config, like this. That's all. These are all the modules that we defined, guys. We installed it, we are requiring it at the very top, we will use it. So now we just need to simply start Express app, listen this application on port 5000, and the callback will simply say that app is listening on port 5000. So you will see that if I just start my application, just type here node.js, you will see this message appearing on the screen, app is listening on port 5000. So now our app is starting. We just need to set the view engine EJS. We forgot to install this library, guys. You will get an error right here if you just see. I think just install this module as well, npm i EJS. So, and then again start. EJS actually is a template engine which allows you to actually pass variables inside your HTML template. So it stands for embedded JavaScript templates. You just create a views folder, and typically EJS store index all the templates in the views folder. Just call this as index.ejs. This is the actual extension of it, and right here you will write HTML code. So I will simply change the title Google login and logout system. So just say h1 hello world. So now to show this on the screen, we will simply write a simple route app.get request response, and we will simply say right here response.render index. So what you will now see, if you navigate to localhost 5000, you will see the hello world message. You will see that. So up till now guys, we have configured all the stuff right here. We have configured the .env file, we written this much of index.ejs. Now the next step is that we need to actually create the table and create the database connection, and now we'll look at in the next section. Now guys, we will be creating the tables for storing the data. Just navigate to your PHP MyAdmin, and here I will simply create a table. So we have actually created this table with database right here. You will see users DB, and inside this just go to this section right here, which is the SQL section, where you can actually write commands to actually create tables automatically. So here you will actually create this actually have create table. So create table followed by the table name. So I will call this table as users, and set up curly bracket, and inside this curly bracket you just need to mention what information you want to store. We'll be storing ID of the ID, which will be the primary keys, will be integer, and auto increment, it will automatically be incremented whenever the record is inserted, and the primary key, put a comma. So this is the first record. The second record will be Google underscore ID. So this will be a varchar, which is variable character, and the length of it will be 255, and it will be not null. The user must have a valid value, and it should be unique. So these are validators right here, and after that we will be having the display underscore name property, where we will actually storing the name of the user. Again, this will be varchar 255 characters, not null. And then we come the email. Again, it's varchar 255 character limit, and then again not null, and the email should be unique. So only one email must be inserted. Duplicate emails are not allowed. The next field is photograph of the user. So photo. So again, this will be varchar 255, and next field is guys for the timestamp. So timestamp is basically whenever the record is created. So it's a time value. So put a comma. So created underscore at. So it's actually a timestamp default value will be the current time, which is a current timestamp. Put a semicolon right here. So I think, sorry, this is not curly bracket, this is parentheses. Sorry, that's why the error is coming. This is not curly bracket, this is parentheses. You will now see no error is now there. This is the ID we are storing: Google ID, display name, email, photograph, and created ad. So these are the fields. So there is a go option right here. If I click it, the table will be created, green option will come, and you will basically see the table has been created. So if I show you a structure right here guys, which is ID is the primary key. This is Google ID, display name, email, photograph, and created at. Now we need to actually connect to this database and this table. So we will write our connection code. So just right here, we will simply write here, create a connection to the database, and you will basically call the MySQL to MySQL module. It contains a method which is create connection, and right here is set of curly brackets. We will pass this information, host name. We will be coming process.env, whatever that we call that, db underscore host, and the username, which will be coming again from the process.env file, db underscore user, password process.env.db underscore password, and actual database. So process.env.db name. So after you basically provide all these values, which you are storing it as .env file, and there is actually a method called as in this object db, which is connect. So once you call this method, you can have a callback function, and if any sort of error take place in connection, we can throw that error, or we can simply say to the user that connected to MySQL database. So if you just see right here, again run this application, you will see this message coming here right here, connected to MySQL database. So now you are connected to database. Now we can actually make queries as well. So the next step guys, we need to actually create this sessions table as well, because only a single table is present right here, but we do need to create a sessions table. For creating that sessions table, we need to simply write a simple line of code. So for this, we just need to create a variable session store and new MySQL store, and we need to simply pass inside first object is empty object, curly bracket, and pass the connection object. That's all. If you see, we are importing it this MySQL store from Express MySQL session, and passing this session right here. You will see that this is Express session, passing it as an argument, and then we are initializing this MySQL store, passing an empty object, and the second object is the database connection. So right, what this it will do, we do need to create another pass a middleware, which is this session that we created, and this takes quite a number of values. First one it takes is a secret key, app use, and right here session, and now it takes actually the secret key. Secret key can be coming from the process.env file, whatever we session is secret. Then this next one is resave. So it actually is a boolean value. Resave, I will put at false. Save uninitialized to, I will put it to true. These are default values, just need to copy paste these values. And then the store value, and here we will put the session store value that we put right here. And then comes the most important thing guys, the cookie information, the maximum age of the cookie. Here we can set right here max age. So I will be storing the information in the user browser for 1 year. So it is in seconds is 365 multiplied by 24 multiplied by 60 multiplied by 60 and multiplied by 1000, because we need to convert this value into microseconds. This is actually the time period for 1 year in microseconds. So that's all guys that we need to do right here. And then we also need to pass two more middlewares. First one is the passport to actually initialize it, and the second middleware will be to actually passport.session. We need to initialize the session of the passport. So once you do this, guys, that table that you see in the sessions, if I just refresh now, restart the application and try to open this application localhost 5000, and if you just refresh, you will now see, guys, the second table is also being created. This is actually the sessions table. We haven't created this table, it is automatically created by that, and automatically a entry has been there, session_id, and it expires after 1 year. And this is actually the data, original max age expires. This is actually the data of the cookie. So in this way, guys, this library makes it possible to actually create the session table to actually store this information. So now what we need to do, we do need to actually first of all do the authentication. So right here, what we will do right here, we initialize passport.use, and we will actually be initializing a new Google strategy that we imported, and right inside this strategy, guys, we need to pass this object which contains 3 properties: the client ID, which will be coming from process.env, Google_client ID. The second one will be client secret, process.env.client secret, and the third value will be callback URL, which will be process.env.callback_URL. So we are actually passing this object, guys, which contains three values, and we need to put a comma because this actually returns a callback function. Once you do this, actually returns the token, access token, the token secret value, and the third value is the profile and the done callback. It's a callback function having these 4 values. So right here we can simply check if user already exists in our database. So basically, whenever the user grants a permission, we will actually check if it is a new user or if it's an existing user. So right, we will simply query the database right here. So we can actually use the database connection variable, DB variable, to actually query the database or query the table. So right, we will write a simple SQL query, which is select all data from the users table, where we are putting a condition right here where this value Google_ID is equal to question mark, and here you need to put the placeholder value, which is profile dot ID. So we actually are getting the ID, which is actually the primary key. If you see the users table, the ID is actually the primary key, which is unique every time. So we are actually targeting this value to actually get the user, and what it will do, it will put a comma and it will actually return the data to us, which is error or results. So here we can simply check that if any sort of error take place, then we need to return that error, return done error, and then if the results dot length property is greater than 0, in that case we do need to return done null results 0. So what this means, guys, basically it is checking that if the user is already present with this profile, so this property will be true if the results dot length is greater than 0. So in this case, if condition will be true, so here we actually say the user already present. So user is already present, so that's why this condition evaluates to true. In that case, we will return done null as a first argument and the results dot 0. Or in the else case, if the user is not present, then we need to insert them. So what we will do, We will create a new object right here, new user. So we will put these values, which is Google_ID, which will be coming from profile ID, and all this information that you see, which is display name, email address, photograph, we will be getting this information: display name, profile dot display and name, and then the email address, profile dot emails 0 dot value, and the photograph, profile dot photos 0 dot value. So we actually constructed this object, this new user. Now we just need to insert it. So for inserting it, we again use the db query method. This time we'll use the insert statement, insert into the table which is users, where set question mark. So here we need to provide the object, the new user, and then again the callback function. So right here guys, we will simply again check if any sort of error take place, then we just need to return that error. If no error take place, then we simply say new user dot id is equal to results dot insert id. So this is actually the primary key. We are setting it new user id is equal to results dot insert id, and then we simply say return done function, null as the first argument and new user as the second. This is actually the setup guys. You do need to write this code whenever you are implementing Passport Google authentication. We are assigning this Google strategy. We are passing this object which is containing the client ID, client secret, and the callback URL. Then this after authentication flow, this returns this access token, token secret, profile data object. We only need the profile object where we actually get this information, which is the ID of the user, display name, the email address, and the photograph. We get all this information and we are simply checking if the user already exists or if the user is a new user. If the user is a new user, then we are simply inserting that into the users table. So this much we have done. And now what we need to do, we need to simply write conditionally. So we need to pass two properties right here. First is the title of the page, which let me say is the home page. And the second property guys right here, we need to check conditionally that request, in the request object there will be this property called as is authenticated, already built in, because we are actually using Passport library. So this simply returns the value if the user is already authenticated, if the user is already logged in or not. If the user is not logged in, you will use this ternary operator question mark. If the user is already logged in, then we will simply pass the user which is located in request.user. If the user is not logged in, then we will pass the value of user to be null. This is actually ternary operator guys. Here we put the condition. If the condition turns out to be true, then we put this right here, if colon followed by the condition not true, like this. So this is actually ternary operator in programming. So here we are passing this user object. We now need to render this index template, index.ejs, and we also need to write, for this to work, work right here, passport.use Google strategy, we do need to write these two get requested. I forgot to write it, app.get. So whenever the user will go to this request /auth /Google /callback, this will be the callback request when you have actually granted the permission. So first of all, we will redirect the user to this request, which is /auth /Google, and here we will pass this middleware passport.authenticate, and we are authenticated for Google, and here we will actually provide the scope. Scope will be right here. We will be requesting the profile information of the user and the email address, and after this, that's all that we need to do right here. If you just format this, so we are actually redirecting the user to /auth /Google. We are requesting this passport.authenticate Google, and we are requesting these scopes, profile and the email. So after you do this, we also need to write this callback request as well, app.get /auth/google/callback. So whenever you grant the permission, this will be the actual request will take place. Password authenticate Google once again. And here we actually have the failure redirect. If the actual authentication is not successful, in that case where the user should be redirected to, we need to redirect it to the home page if the request is not successful. If the request is successful, in that case we have the request response, and here we will redirect again the user to the home page like this. You can have a custom route as well, where you can actually return them to the error message, but we are, for the time being, we are only redirecting it to the home page if the request is not successful. This is actually the callback request right here. We configured this callback request, if you see in the .env file, /auth/google/callback. So this is actually the same request, /auth/google/callback. Now we just need to write our index.ejs route. So we do need to include Bootstrap, guys, right here. So I am using Bootstraps. Just after the title, paste the CDN. You will get all the source code. You can purchase the full source code with full documentation. The link is given in the description. And we will simply embed the title variable that we are passing dynamically in EJS using the syntax. If you see, we are passing this title property, which is home page. It will get inserted inside right here. And we also need to import Bootstrap JS CDN and jQuery CDN as well. After the body, paste the CDNs of both of them. So we also need the CDN for jQuery as well. So what I will do, I will copy this also. So jQuery and Bootstrap JS CDN as well. So we are actually passing this user object, if you see, guys, in this template, and we will simply conditionally render out if the user exists or not. So for this, we will use the container class of Bootstrap, and right here we will basically check in this if condition if the user exists or not. If the user does exist, we will just wrap all this with this brackets EJS. So it is this conditional logic that we are writing, guys, an embedded JavaScript template EJS file. So if the user does exist, in that case we will basically display the profile information. But if the user doesn't exist, in that case we will actually have a else block. Like this. So if the user doesn't exist, we will simply write a heading, user doesn't exist. So what should be the value, guys, right here? Just see, user exists. So just predict what will be the value, H2 or H1. If I just refresh the application, go to localhost 5000. So you will now see, guys, this value is printed out, user doesn't exist, because we haven't logged in. That's why the user comes out to be null right here. This value comes out to be false. That's why we put null here, and that's why this else block execute. So we do need to actually redirect the user to that authentication page where the user can log in. For doing that, we will be having a model, and we'll be giving an ID to it of authentication model. We're giving some properties to this, which is tab index -1. Role will be actually a dialog box, and div model dialog centered. These are all Bootstrap classes, guys. Role will be actually of dialog, and then we will have model content, whatever is the content inside your model. Div.model title. This is actually a very basic model of Bootstrap. You can write a logo box right here. If you just refresh right here, it will look something like, we do need to actually write some custom CSS for this. We need to target this modal backdrop class. Just write the CSS, paste it. Just we need to wrap this inside the style tag model. We are just simply giving a background color model backdrop. Now to show this model box, we actually given this ID. If you see authentication model, if you see, we have given this ID right here to this div tag. Now to show this on the screen, we do need to write some custom JavaScript. So in the document ready function of jQuery, when it has been loaded all the elements, so we will actually target the model by its ID. We will simply say here auth model and model, and simply we'll say backdrop to be static and keyboard will be false. And then we will simply say here auth model and model to be show. So it will actually show the model dialog box with this property. If you just refresh now, you will actually see this model box and a black shadow as well. So the size is login right here. So what we need to do right here, model title, so this needs to be in h5 tag, h5. So you'll see that h5 it is. Div, I think we made some mistake right here. This one model dialog centered role is equal to document, not dialog. It's a document, and the div class model content, then it's model header, sorry, model title, model header, and then inside that this needs to be div. This is model header, and inside this we need to define the h5 tag, which will actually have the class of model title, which comes out to be login. So now if you refresh like this, now it will look something like this. You can even center it as well if you have a class which is, you can just write here text center. So after you do this, we do need to have another, the model body, and text center. So inside this model we just need to have a simple anchor tag ahref, and it will navigate to /auth/google. I will say class btn primary, and we will simply say login with Google. So what it will say, guys, you will see, refresh, and there will be a button out there, login with Google. So that's a button, and that completes the model. And if you just click this button, what should happen, it will navigate to the sign in page, and it is saying that it is missing the required parameter, which is redirect_URI. If you are a developer of project, invalid request. I think I made a mistake, guys, right here. Let me check in the just wait, guys, I will come to the next section. I will tell you the mistake. Guys, I've just made a very silly mistake. If you go to this index.js file right here, whenever you initializing Google strategy, if you see the client ID is correct, we put here Google_client_ID. If I just see .env file, we are underscore called Google underscore client secret, Google underscore callback URL. So, but if you see right here, we forgot to put Google right here, Google underscore client secret and Google underscore callback URL. So this is the case, guys. And now if you refresh, click on this button, it will redirect to your account screen where you can actually select your account and click the allow permission. So now it is working, guys. And one more thing that is remaining in index.js file, guys, we do need to deserialize or serialize the user using passport. Whenever you grant the permission, this process will automatically take place. So right after, whenever you imported this passport library, whenever you initialize the session, we do need to write the code for serializing and deserializing of user. So if you don't do that, because you will actually get error, you will not get your user object. This is really important. This is the actual passport code. This is actually the serialized user and user done. And you just need to call the done function and user.id. That's all. And then for deserializing the user, passport.deserialize user. And again, we will get our ID and the done property. And here what we need to do, we need to insert this user. We need to simply select the everything from the users table where this ID that we get, we will pass this ID right here. We'll basically get if this user exists or not. So if any sort of error take place, we will simply throw this error. And here we'll simply have a if condition that if this user already exists, if the user length double equal to 0, if the user doesn't exist, in that case return done, null, false, because here the no user found, return false. So here we are doing this check. If the user is found, then we will simply done, null, results 0. This is important, guys. You do need to write this deserialization and serialization. Now you can do this process. You can actually refresh your application, click on this button and select your account. So once you select your account, you need to grant the permission. So click on continue. So it will redirect to the user, and now if you see, user exists, because now the user has got some object values. If you see, we actually have this index.js. Now this if condition turns out to be true because user is actually logged in. So now it is actually printing out this statement, which is user exist. So if you also check your user table as well, you will actually see, if I refresh, go to the browse option, you will actually see one entry has been automatically been added, guys. You can see coding Siksha. This is the email address. This is the actual profile picture and created ad. So now we just need to display this information on the screen, guys. Google underscore ID from the table. It contains inside the user object, and the sessions also have this object as well, if you see. So if you, so this is a localhost 5000. We need to now display this information on the browser instead of this user exist. So what I will do, just right here, we need to display the information. So we will again use the model. We'll give it an ID of auth model. Tab index -1 and role is equal to dialog. So now we just need to display this information. So for displaying this information, modal dialog centered, and the role will be of document, h5 and we'll give it a class of model title. You will say user profile. So here you will display the user profile of the user. If you just refresh, it will look something like this. So for displaying the user profile, we got that user object, and inside that user object we have different fields. We will have model, body, and text center. So first is the image. We need to show the profile picture, so this will be coming from user.photo. And we just need to give it some bootstrap classes to it, which is of rounded circle. And we'll need to give it a fixed width of 100 and a height as well of 100. So if you just refresh now, you will actually get this profile picture, nice little profile picture. And after this, guys, what we need to do, we need to actually show the display name of the user. So we can display user.display underscore name. So we are displaying it, this information. If you see in the index.js file, whenever we got the user, we inserted it and we actually got this information. We call this as display underscore name, email, and photo. So we are actually displaying these values. You can see display underscore name, and you can see photo. So whatever we called it, we are displaying it. And then the email address as well, which is present in the email variable. So user email. So if you refresh now, you will see that. And lastly, guys, we do need to have a logout button as well. So we'll simply have a href tag / logout. So as I click the logout button, we should be redirected to the home page. So we just need to go to index.js file and just write this simple logout request, which actually is very simple. Passport library does have a built-in method for logout, app.get logout request response, and this will use the request.logout function, which is available to us. And after it, we will simply check if any sort of error take place. We will throw that error, or we can simply say return next. Request.session, we need to delete the session variable. So request.session.destroy will destroy the session once the user is logged out. And then we will redirect the user to the home page. That's all. You can see that we are calling logout function of passport, and then we actually destroying the session and redirecting the user back to the home page. That's all that we need to do, guys, in this application. If you just refresh, click on logout. If I just close this window and again open it, because the user is persisted, it will again detect the user is already authenticated. It will redirect localhost 5000, sorry. It will redirect me to the profile page. You will see that. If you close the browser as well, again open the browser as well, then also if I close the browser and reopen the browser, again go to localhost 5000, again it will see, because we have actually embedded this information in the user browser for actually 365 days. But if the user clicks this logout button, then the user will be deleted and the cookie information will be deleted. So if you again open localhost 5000, that information is gone. It is no longer present. So this is actually the system, guys. Again, if you click login with Google, now it will redirect to you automatically. Don't need to go to that authorization flow. So you can do this for any account. You can do this for this account as well. Again, the same problem. If you're doing it for the very first time, then you just need to go to the authorization flow, select your account. Once you are done, then it will remember you. You just need to continue and you will see that. The link is given, guys, if you want to purchase the full source code of this project. If you are interested, full documentation with source code will be there for you, and I will also support you as well if you have some doubt as well. The link is given. You can directly purchase it from procodestore.com. After that, you will actually get that source code from Google Drive after you make the payment. Thank you very much, guys. Please hit that like button, subscribe the channel as well, and I will be seeing you in the next video.